Hello again. Welcome back to the Japan Game Junk podcast. And this time, going over a store that is in Oyama city of Tochigi prefecture, as last time, and as there will be one more time after this, as this is one of my favorite stores to visit, which is Surugaya. And this is one of the better of the smaller Surugaya stores that you'll find here in Japan. Again, good old Oyama Surugaya. It is, unfortunately, not so easy to access without a car. I believe it would be pretty foolish to recommend anyone to go here unless you do have car access. But if you're already in the city, it's definitely worth a look. It's also remodeled lately, and it has a bit more space, so they have a bit more stock than they used to. Although if you've never been there, you wouldn't know if you went the first time. Also, it is kind of interesting. It is next door to a Fuji Shoten used shop, and it's cannibalized the entire thing. I really hope that it's the same owner or something, because that's actually a store where I used to visit, that Fuji Shoten. I remember getting, what did I get there years ago? Like Road Rash for 3DO, the second time I bought that game, after doing so in the US years ago. And some other games there as well. I think Demolition Man for 3DO. A couple of Famicom games. It was a great store back in the day, but then once this Surugaya next door opened up and really crowded them out, now that Fuji Shoten, they basically just sell porn now, and masturbatory goods and stuff, which, maybe that's for the best. Anyway, back to the Surugaya store, where I've spent more time than in Fuji Shoten, even though I might know of that place's stock a bit, quite a few things, including a great prize that I could find there today. I'll save that one for last. And of course, sorry, this is March 31st of 2024, although recording several podcasts at once, and so this one will be coming out later than that. But great stuff there today, or on the 31st, whenever you're hearing this. So, first thing to note is one thing I've never actually seen before, and I'd assume it'd be much rarer and harder to get, but an unopened package from Capcom. It was the 6-button pad for the Mega Drive. Now, I remember way back when in the 90s when the 6-button pad for Super Famicom was released in all the electronics boutique stores. They made way too many. Super flooded the shelves for about, I think it was $10 for that Capcom style of pad. And, it had all the face buttons there for Street Fighter. And it really is a good controller for that game. And I remember picking it up way back when. And then there was the 3DO version, which was much rarer, that I picked up for a steal at a hard off in Japan a few years ago. Maybe many years ago now. But this is the first time I even knew that the Mega Drive one existed. So yeah. I didn't get it, but it was 2,400 yen. Currently, that's a little over $15 US. It's really, really cheap, I think, for the packaged controller there. So that might be worth going if you're in the area. It's a bit of a rarity there. Plus, maybe one of the best ways to play Street Fighter on the Mega Drive. Next that I saw that I didn't know existed as well, I was aware of, I am very aware actually because I have one. These the albums that musicians are making now to be played in video game systems. I do have, in fact, what was it? I'm so sorry that I forgot the. It might even be this artist. I forgot the artist's name, but there's an album that's on CD that is also compatible with the PC Engine CD system, and you play the music, but also it has some new graphics to go along with it. And I got that one way back when for a steal of a price. Actually, at the Akayama Joy, where I had I think it was the last episode I put out, but that was years ago. And this time, I found for the first time a Dreamcast album. It was an album from Remute, for the Dreamcast. And it included balloons, like, blowing up balloons, party balloons, that were as of yet unused. It was the album and 2 balloons, all sealed up together for 4,000 yen. Now, these kind of albums that are made by hobbyists, mostly in Europe, I believe, They are not typically sold in Japan, so it would require either a hobbyist or a specialty store looking to import games and stuff to sell this in Japan. So I think if you were to include the price of shipping and stuff to buy it new from abroad, it so might be a bit cheaper than usual. So yeah, pretty decent. And again, I'm not a huge fan, so I didn't pick it up. But if it were about half that price, I would definitely get it just for the collection. Next up, also just to have for a collection, is I've played it in about a million other versions. Lemmings, the original Lemmings for Mega Drive. It's in this weird small case, not like the typical Mega Drive or Genesis big clamshell case. It was a very small clamshell case, barely bigger than the cartridge itself. A few games here came out like that. And this one is typically very expensive. This one, though, very good condition, 10,000 yen. Yeah, it's almost $70. But in Japan it is a rarity, and I would think that's actually cheaper than how you'd find it for a complete version in most stores. Next is a game it's honestly very terrible, but I want to have it one day just if I can find it cheaply for the collection. It has my second favorite character, Nakoruru, from the Samurai Spirits Samurai Showdown series. She does not star in this game, but she's on the cover, and she's like a friend or like someone you contact in the game. It's just one of those like dating sim kind of games. But I think you're somehow connected with Nakoruru in spirit or something. Anyway, it's a huge box game for Dreamcast. So it has, big manual, it has, little figures and stuff inside, I guess. But the game itself is terrible, so again, just getting that for my collection one day if I find it cheap. This time it was 2,400 yen. I think I'd like to see it for at least in the thousands before I would seriously consider buying it, but if you want to have it, it's in good shape, and probably the cheapest I've seen it as of yet in Japan, at this Surugaya in Oyama. Then, if you want huge boxed games, a massive box for Dokyusei for the original PlayStation, PS1. The box has seen better days, but the whole thing is complete for 1,000 yen. That is super cheap now, less than $7. And yeah, if you want kind of soft-core love adventure game stuff with tons of extra bonuses, figures and books and all sorts of stuff, then that was a good buy. I probably would have had it, only if I don't need to get stuff now that takes up a huge amount of space, and also because it's not a huge deal. These kind of PS1 era dating sim stuff, it's really not so expensive anywhere you go, no matter what. So yeah. Anyway, but I would have had it for this price just to have it if I, had a bigger junk room to store it at the moment. But my junk room needs to be, cleaned up, not junked up even more, unless it's, something really great. Next up was something that just shows how far expensive technology can get so cheap when they're flooding the market. The original PlayStation VR. So it was complete in the box. The VR headset itself was a bit stained, not with human juices of some type, but rather just typical yellowing of it, and it didn't look new. It looked very, very, very used, but not to the point where it was not still usable, and it looked like it was perfectly fine to play with. It was in the box, however, there was no slipcover on the box, so it was just a plain white box, without the slipcover over it to make it all colorful. For only 3,000 yen. It's kind of crazy when you think about VR headsets and how much they used to be, and even the original PSVR when it came out, and how kind of revolutionary it was to make it even as cheap as it was not super cheap, right? And now it's play it on your PS4, even play it on your PS5 if you get the adapter, and 3,000 yen. Craziness. The next thing was something I was kind of torn on, now happy or sad to see. Again, my favorite modern system, the Xbox Series X, which is obviously not as popular as Sony in Japan, but it was on sale here in the box. It looked like it would be basically used but fairly good condition, and it's the first time I've seen either the PS5 without being broken in some way, or the Xbox Series X for less than the normal retail price, because both systems again are typically not stocked very much in stores, although more now than it used to be. And it was 46,000 yen. So yeah, including tag, it would come out to be about 10,000 yen less than the usual new price. So even though now you can get both the PS5 or Series X at any Costco in Japan, at will. Still, it was both good to see that it was available, so maybe someone who was wanting to buy it at less than full price might enjoy the beauty of the Series X, but also sad that now, no longer stores find it a premium to stock the systems at higher than retail price. It doesn't have that desirability anymore. Next, two things I want to mention that were the most standing outy, and only one of these I bought. So this store happens to have lots and lots of doujinshi. So if you don't know, doujinshi is kind of a fan-made comic book, sometimes in very good quality, but usually it's, not quite as good as the original artist, but still close. And the characters are the same as in famous comic series, animation series, or game series. And one of the things I found, and sometimes they're, things that the normal characters would not do. I found a doujinshi comic, fairly light, very thin, might be about 20 pages or so, but typical comic. And it has these squid girls, the characters from Splatoon, and they're all lezzing out. The female squid girls, they're enjoying each other sexually. And it's 100 yen, so you can get your fan-drawn Splatoon Squid Girl lesbian sex comics for about 70 cents. Pretty good. Now, if you didn't know much about doujinshi, also, sometimes it is the actual artist, if it's like from a comic book or an animation series, the actual artist will often, make these and then sell them underground or, just to fans directly or whatever. Because the artists, they don't have the rights to their own characters, it's like the publishing house or the animation studio, whatever, that has the rights to the characters. But the original artist may want their characters to be involved in more adult-themed content. And so under a pseudonym, sometimes the actual artists of different characters will make sexual doujinshi or other kind of doujinshi and put it out there for people to buy. So yeah, it's a laugh and a half, and sometimes it's worth getting some of these things. And the last thing that I found that was my big prize for the day for all the stores that I visited was a copy of the game Hellfire, a shooting game, for the PC Engine CD. Typically, this will go, when it's complete, for well over $100 in Japan. Complete and in decent condition at the Surugaya online store was about 8,700 yen, I think, when I checked. So, not $100, but very close to, how much you might expect to pay for that kind of premium software. And I found it here. It was not the complete game. It was the disc and the manual. So it did not have the jewel case. It did not have the jewel case back insert, It did not have the OB strip. But it had the original game disc, the original manual, for 800 yen. That is insanely cheap. It is a fairly sought-after game, and at that price, I think it's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of find. And this Surugaya store has been good for that. Surugaya store in Oyama typically doesn't have everything as cheaply as it would in the other Surugaya stores, notably in places like Machida or Yokohama, or of course any of the stores in its original location in locations in Shizuoka Prefecture. But this Oyama store over the years, what have I had there? I have found, this game that I got today, but I also got my Virtual Boy there for 7,000 yen. It's insanely cheap these days. When I bought it, you couldn't find it for less than 30,000. But the box was really beaten up, and there was no battery pack on the controller. It only had the AC adapter pack with no AC adapter. For me, that's perfect. You can use any Famicom AC adapter to make it work, and I didn't want to play it portably anyway. Quote-unquote portably anyway. So it was great for me to get it so cheaply. That was at this Oyama Surugaya a number of years ago. And also I did get my Retro Freak, half I guess it's kind of an emulation box, right? But, it has all the cartridge ports on there, and you can connect the original controllers to it and play tons of different games on there, from, all the Game Boy series to the PC Engine cards to Mega Drive, Famicom, Super Famicom, international variants, and so on. It's a great way to play old games. I know worldwide the Retron 5 is kind of famous. It's like that, except it's very, very easy to dump the ROMs from any game you have plugged in to a memory card. So, even if you find something very rare, you can just dump the ROM and then send it off to a friend or something. But yeah, I found that there for, usually now, even the cheapest ones go for 15 to 20,000 used. I got mine there, no box, and that made it 6,000 yen. So that was another good buy that I got the Surugaya, and they have tons of stuff like there. Like I mentioned, there's the Dojinshi, almost all are 100 yen in the cheap section, but lots of CDs, DVDs that are kind of junky, and a huge adult section if you need to have that gratification, that visual stimulation. But it's a great store to visit. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommended. Again, like I said before, though, kind of hard to get there if you're not a driver in Japan. But if you find yourself there, please enjoy the Surugaya of Oyama in Tochigi. And remember, all you need in life is your Splatoon Squid Girl lesbian doujinshi. Thank you again, and have an incredibly wonderful day.